OWS Week has been covering the Occupy movement and its efforts from that fateful September day in New York in 2011 until now. With 99ers' struggle for justice and economic parity well into its second year, we have decided to look back in this year-end episode at one of the most eventful periods in U.S. contemporary history. With the popular struggle set to continue, we wish all activists success in their endeavor to prove that another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Dozens of chants ring in one's ears after more than a year of journaling Occupy Wall Street, but this one stands above the rest. Mainstream media mouthpieces regularly announce the demise of 99er unity, but reality on the ground gives the lie to pronouncing pundits. Occupy Wall Street was conceived by online activists during the summer of 2011 in the wake of several events dubbed Arab Spring, which had occurred earlier in the year. Bouazizi's martyrdom in Tunisia on December 17, 2010, and the Tahrir Square uprising in Egypt on January 25, 2011, along with WikiLeaks' disclosures of worldwide banking, corporate and military collusion, and corruption sparked an awakening in the U.S. Occupy Wall Street set up camp at Zuccotti Park in New York City on September 17, 2011. Peaceful protesters chose to publicly exercise First Amendment rights of free speech and public assembly for redress of grievances. Over 1,000 people came together from all walks of life that first day to illuminate economic disparity and social injustice caused by corporate banking and military industrialist control. A horizontal leaderful system of General Assembly was mapped out. OWS hallmarks from the beginning were democratic decision-making, giving a form to all human rights being involved, community development and outreach, and addressing the needs.
My name is Tom Bates, and I film as Mobile T. I've been with OWS Week for 6 months since Season 2. I've been involved in documenting Occupy Portland since its inception on September 30th of 2011. Portlanders gathered by the hundreds at Waterfront Park and organized several groups and committees that were to be part of the movement. A week later, on October 6th, we proceeded to set up the largest encampment in the nation. Over 1,000 people at one point were occupying the park blocks downtown here in Portland. And on November 10th, Mayor Sam Adams announced that Occupy Portland will be evicted. At midnight on November 13th, the eviction was enforced. Occupy still remained active after the eviction. We started working with unions, supporting teachers, backing wrongly fired workers, and got involved with the Save America's Postal Service campaign, occupying several post offices. We're still organizing and influencing. I'm pleased that I have been able to be a part of such a historical movement and to be a contributor to the only show to cover it from week to week across the nation.
The park became a magnet of hope and inspiration. NYPD and the city mobilized quickly to stem the tide of congregation. Within 3 days, tents had been prohibited and mask-wearing protesters arrested. Yet the people persisted, and a massive march uptown September 24th forced several street closures. At least 80 peaceful protesters were arrested, and a group of young women were kettled by orange mesh and pepper sprayed by an NYPD white shirt. This brutal attack galvanized the attention of the whole world, which, as it turned out, was watching events on American streets and hoping for an American autumn. More supporters flocked to the cause in the following week. Unions, including postal and transport workers, put boots on the ground by September 27th, along with doctors, nurses, and military veterans, as well as some active duty personnel. More than 700 airline pilots took to the Wall Street in full uniform to highlight corporate union busting and in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street. '99ers set out to march across the Brooklyn Bridge on October 1st. Peaceful protesters were reportedly led into a trap by NYPD, and over 700 arrests were made. Another massive demo, estimated at 15,000 participants, saw a peaceful march on October 5th from Foley Square to Zuccotti Park, culminating in arrests, when 200 people tried to get past newly placed barricades blocking Wall Street.
People united will never be defeated.
Action in the month of October 2011 was not confined in New York City. Between 600 to 1,500 Occupy encampments had formed across the U.S. by October 17th. President Obama, on the face of it, issued a statement of support for the 99ers, and the Democratic Party began concerted efforts to co-opt the movement into its election year propaganda. The president said one thing, but the joint actions of federal, state, and local agencies within the next few months promptly dispelled any illusions of support from government quarters.
My first job covering the Occupy movement was in late March, when I did the Occupy Spring in Chicago. Since then, the beat has taken me from Chicago to Detroit to Milwaukee to D.C. I've even covered Occupy in a very unexpected place, a small upper-middle-class town called Naperville, Illinois. As an older guy, I tend towards cynicism, but I owe a debt of gratitude to the members of Occupy for making me rethink that. When things looked terrible, when it would have been easy to just up and quit, occupiers kept a belief that a better world is possible. When the banks were evicting, occupiers stood up to the evictions, fighting them both at the banks and at the homes. When immigrants were denied health care or were rounded up, occupiers rallied outside of the hospitals and courtrooms. And when NATO came to Chicago, occupiers came out in droves to let the rulers know what the people really think. Time after time, fight after fight, Occupy showed up. They were willing to stand shoulder to shoulder on the front line. Regardless of their ages or the campaigns they waged, the people of Occupy have embodied hope, a positive spirit, and a willingness to cooperate and aid other groups in their struggles. And best of all, Occupy showed people that help isn't a top-down thing. Help is available the moment you decide to be the help. 2013 is rolling in, and it's going to see Occupy doing newer and different things. Things requiring even more organization, cooperation, and persistence. Events like Freedom School, Occupy Sandy, and the Rolling Jubilee are really going to push things. I can't say whether these are going to be successful or not, but I can say they've given me heart. So much of what I see on a daily basis encourages negativity and feelings of futility. But when I see folks keep pushing forward in face of tough resistance, it makes me feel better, and it makes me think that maybe, just maybe, people can make a better world. Thank you, Occupy, and I'll see you in 2013.
Oakland, California had developed a thriving encampment by early October, and the swimmering social and economic injustice in the mostly blue-collar and working poor city erupted on October 25th after a violent local, state, and federal law enforcement raid in Occupy Oakland's camp. Marine veteran Scott Olson was critically injured by police during a mostly peaceful demonstration which disintegrated into a nightmarish scene of a state oppression resembling Tahrir Square in Egypt.
What happened? He got shot. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name?
Oakland was not alone, and the world was repeatedly stunned by images of rampant brutality as Occupy encampments were cleared over the next few months. November 15th marked the day Zuccotti Park was cleared, and more than 30,000 protesters gathered on November 17th in solidarity with OWS. Retired police captain Ray Lewis took a visible stand and was arrested. Military veterans marched in solidarity and faced down police officers, shaming them to silence. Oakland occupiers joined with unions after the October raids and shut down the city's ports on December 12th. Momentum was growing and solidarity seemed to be given among 99ers. Occupy Wall Street staged an attempt to reoccupy a church-owned park on December 17th and were met by massive NYPD presence and arrests. Encampments across the country were raided and cleared through January, and by February's end, all but an intrepid few were gone.
Hey now, my name is Patty Beers, and I've been with Occupy LA since September 20, 2011. I've been shooting video since October 1st of that year, and since January 2012 I've been live streaming. And then in July last summer I joined OWS Week, and I've been shooting video with OWS Week, and it's really been a great experience working with OWS Week. And right now I'm filming this inside of a tent because since the middle of June, I really haven't been staying at home. I've been actually not just reporting on these stories, but living them. And I'm here right now at Pueblo Lucero in East Los Angeles. Right now inside of a tent where a lot of us are sleeping in the backyard of the home of the Lucero family, helping them to try to save this home. What else? When I watch the episodes of OWS Week and I see the film footage that I shot, it makes me feel really proud to know that I've been a part of something so important. Not only reporting the story, but helping, and being a part of the story. And that's an interesting thing about activist citizen journalism, is that there's that line. Most journalists have this line between the story and themselves, but I think with live streamers and Occupy and other Occupy journalists, we are the story. So it's kind of a fuzzy, weird way of being. It's completely biased and non-objective, and I think that's awesome. And do you have any questions?
The state's violent repression took a toll on corporate mouthpieces of mainstream media, blacked out news of unrest as corporate-controlled political parties realized the movement could not be infiltrated. Presidential election year maneuvers took the airwaves. The arrest of thousands of U.S. citizens and the passage of Bill of Rights gutting legislation such as the NDAA and H.R. 347 were not deemed newsworthy by the press. Union management responded to pressure from the Democratic Party and reined in their rank and file. Occupiers were bruised and battered, and the dwindling numbers of supporters in the streets led to the next phase. Community outreach and support. Every location identified the main needs in its community and began addressing the issues of unemployment, foreclosure, homelessness, hunger, and police violence. Network and trust building between activists and neighborhoods commenced. These developments did not spell an end to street actions. National days of action were called with regularity in 2012, one of the first being the February 4th No Iran War protests in more than 80 cities in the US and Canada. Occupy Wall Street has always recognized monthly milestones, and March 17th was no exception. Heralded as the coming of the American spring, and an attempt was made to reoccupy Zuccotti Park, and solidarity actions were held across the U.S. New York City protesters were met with immediate NYPD brutality, and more than 70 arrests were made.
Shall make no laws. Respect the establishment of religion.
99ers were undaunted and began calls for a nationwide general strike on May 1st, an internationally recognized time for worker solidarity. Rank-and-file union workers defied management and joined with occupiers and allies in actions, but the efforts of political parties and front activist groups like Move On created decisions which could not be overcome. OWS Week has pointed out from the beginning of our efforts to chronicle this U.S. populist uprising that Occupy Wall Street has acted as a catalyst and inspiration and a reminder to Americans of the spirit and nature of the ideals the country was founded on. It was evident by mid-May 2012 that a resurgence of populist action was on the rise and the culture of resistance burgeoning. The NATO summit held in Chicago provided the evidence that tens of thousands of Americans could and would brave police violence and repression to take a stand. Veterans rushed to Chicago for the massive protests that saw them publicly throw away their war medals. Tens of thousands filled the streets for unified action against a corporate-run government. Hundreds were beaten by police and dozens were arrested and detained.
Occupy is many, many voices without a leader, and it reflects many, many different people's problems and their attempts at solutions. There's a lot of disagreeing. There's a lot of beauty in communication, and what the world can be. A better world is possible. There's a lot to do with the war, corporations being people, genetically modified organisms, food, and corruption. And there's a strong power in Occupy and belief in the Constitution of the United States. Many veterans are affiliated or involved in Occupy, and it takes many voices to come together to be heard. And that's one of the things that I love about Occupy, and one of the more exciting things about filming Occupy was documenting it for my extended family, which are people of Occupy DC. So there are many things that have to be done. There's a lot of work ahead, but it will happen. And with patience and strength, we will meet this goal with courage and love.
Occupy locations across the country have continued their work to expose banking and corporate cartels, to support low-wage workers as they organize to protect homeowners from foreclosure and eviction, to highlight police violence in disadvantaged areas, to protect the homeless, to illuminate environmental, trade, civil rights, and foreign policy issues, even to provide disaster assistance in the absence of effective government action. These nitty-gritty, community-oriented efforts have been ongoing all year. Major street actions and public demonstrations have been orchestrated since mid-year in solidarity with workers and activists from environmental, peace, and veterans groups. Frames devised by OWS organizers who met at the national gathering in Philadelphia on July 4th are becoming evident as the year draws to a close. It is possible to highlight all of the actions that illustrated this blossoming solidarity among 99%ers in the United States. One of the first was the Stop the Frack Attack rally held in Washington, D.C. on July 28th. Tens of thousands of activists joined together against fracking and its destructive environmental impact. The importance of a gathering like this one does not rest in its initial display, but in information exchanged, networks created, and real actions taken home to be utilized in the struggle to protect local environments. Occupy organizers are just everyday people. They work with other folks to make things happen. They mount solidarity actions with people affected by police violence and repression, such as Anaheim, July 27th, and Occupy the Hood, Milwaukee's weekly peace and justice marches. They support Walmart, fast food, and other low-wage earners in efforts to organize for better standards of living. They join with Palestinian Americans and Muslim Americans to protest against murderous foreign policies of Washington and its allies. The list goes on and on. Occupy only put on a token show of force during the political conventions held this year in the knowledge that the system has been rigged for years and that their efforts could be best exerted elsewhere. Post-election developments tend to authenticate their position. Unions, veterans, workers, immigrants, indigenous peoples, and others are waking up to the harsh realities of draconian austerity measures imposed by both major parties, while the U.S. government continues to fund multi-trillion-dollar exploitation, military and otherwise, of the planet. Alliances, new and renewed, are forming among the global 99%. Stay tuned, world. Stand up and be counted. Act.
It's been about 2 years since the human family began activating on a global scale against the disastrous military and economic policies of the 1%. My attention was caught by events in Tunisia and Egypt prior to the Arab Spring, so I renewed a lifelong commitment to activism in a new way, online. I was only one of many people in the U.S. who were paying attention. We knew the mainstream corporate media in our country were suppressing important truths about crimes being committed in our name by our government and its allies. We understood the oppressive frame of fear placed on the American people since 9/11, and we set out to do what we could. Occupy Wall Street blossomed from this awareness. My countrymen and women came together from all walks of life to do something. Some organized, some took to the streets, and some, like me, started spreading the news. The bridges and networks built during that process led to working on a televised journal called OWS Week. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to work with our director and producer, Nader Mokhtari, on these Occupy Wall Street Chronicles for the past year. Our U.S. crew has braved all sorts of weather and police presence to record images and voices of the 99%. Our U.S. crew has braved all sorts of weather and police presence to record images and voices of the 99ers. Our director, producer, and Tehran crew have worked their magic and created 48 weekly episodes which stand as a comprehensive history of Occupy Wall Street and the issues affecting real human beings, not only in the U.S. but across the planet. My humble thanks to everyone involved in Press TV. I know the people united can never be defeated. Another world's not only possible, it is probable.